Have you ever really wanted to change something about yourself, really go and delve in deeply into your internal self in order to make a greater impact when it comes to your external world? As Neville Goddard put it, there's nothing to change but self. And in this video, we're going to discuss one of the first steps that need to be taken when it comes to making that internal change. Let's get into it. So when it comes to actually making changes to our internal selves so that we can feel differently, maybe so that we can feel more contentment, more happiness, more joy, and more peace within our lives. In order to actually make those changes and make that happen, there are generally 3 steps that we can actually go about taking. Now, one of the first steps is to think differently. I'm absolutely certain that you guys have heard this. I know that I have. Think different thoughts and then you will feel differently. And that leads on to the second step, which is to feel different things, which means our emotional selves feeling differently according to our thoughts, and then being or acting differently. So these are the 3 steps that can be taken in order for us to begin to change certain parts of ourselves, or to release our old identities and to establish a new identity in accordance to what it is that we truly want for ourselves, or the person that we truly want to be. So in order to make a real change within ourselves on an internal level, we actually have to really become very aware of what it is that we are thinking about. We have to put ourselves in the position of the observer. In order for us to actually get to grips with the thinking part of this 3-step process, is we actually have to become observant and be observers of the thinking process. And one of the ways that we can go about doing this is by outstepping. Outstepping is a way for you to put yourself in a second or a third person perspective, where you're able to actually analyze yourself, analyze your thoughts outside of those thoughts. So really asking your mind and yourself what you're really thinking right now and why you're thinking the way that you're thinking. So this means being able to delve a little bit deeper and ask yourself some questions, really engaging with that part of yourself as if you are therapizing with yourself. I hope therapizing is a real word. I actually have no idea. It just sounded right to me and it felt right. So when we begin to delve deeper and we begin to observe ourselves and we just take moments, we then engage our conscious minds. A lot of the things that we are thinking about are running on the subconscious, in the subconscious self. Now, the subconscious self has been forged between our very young ages, when our brain waves were moving a lot slower, when their cycles were going around a lot slower. And when we become adults, this generally tends to change unless we engage in meditative processes, which is something we're also going to talk about in this video. So a lot of the subconscious self has already been forged when we were younger through our interactions with our environment. That means the people that are in our environments, our society, the types of learnings that we've had, our education, and we then become a product somewhat of our environment, which is the truth because we are social beings. In doing so, what tends to happen is we begin to relate to our environment, and we go through this cycle with the environment and ourselves of re-establishing our identities over and over and over and over again through whatever it is that we tend to practice. So our thoughts then become in alignment with what it is that we've gotten used to, what it is that we are familiar with. The brain does like to know what's going on. It does like to process, and then what happens is it learns how to process what you've learned as a young person quicker and quicker and quicker, and so it becomes embedded in our subconscious selves, because now it's not something necessarily that needs us to think about. We don't have to engage our brains in this process anymore, because one of the brain's functions, one of its amazing abilities, is to be as efficient as possible. So it takes over from you, so to speak, and it becomes more and more efficient as you go along. This is how your subconscious self is basically forged. All of the experiences that you have comes and it gets logged in. It comes in through all of your hardware. That means your senses, your sight, your smell, your taste, your touch. Comes through all of these senses, and it becomes embedded in the program, in the software program of your subconscious mind. So when we are acting as adults, or as adult people that are, I like to say, fully cooked, and this is one of the things I like to say, when we are engaging with our environments again, we're actually just running this program over and over and over again of this, what we learned in our subconscious minds from when we were younger. When we get older, especially when we've suffered any type of traumatic experiences, these things tend to pop up and come out when we least expect it. So our thoughts are forged, and it becomes like we're running a simulation over and over and over and over again, and the narrative is embedded in us. So in order for you to become aware of yourself, even more than you have already, it requires you to step outside of yourself and engage your conscious mind. That means that you have to start thinking about what you are thinking about. It means that you have to start taking notes on some of the behaviors, some of the immediate thought responses that have popped into your mind in order for you to interrupt some of those patterns. So the first step for us to be able to reawaken ourselves so that we can establish a new self or new behaviors that are in alignment with our desires means that we have to become very aware of what our subconscious thoughts are actually doing. So we step outside of ourselves, we start journaling about what it is that we've been going through each day. We start taking notes about our thoughts, and we start questioning our thoughts. Why am I thinking this way? What's made me think this way? Is this really the truth? We ask ourselves these questions, we interrogate ourselves. By doing that alone on its own allows the person to detach themselves from the thought. And then you begin to realize that you are not the thought itself. You are completely separate from the thought, and you can exist in the role of observer. So the first step is definitely going to be to reflect deeply upon yourself, and take some time to do this, my loves. So actually really just give yourself that moment to delve into, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I doing this? How am I behaving? These are the questions that you need to start asking yourself in order to establish and become aware of your pre-existing mindset. This way you're going to be able to then use that information to arm you when it comes to the next step. Now, I would even go even further to advise you, for those of you that actually can, to remove yourself from your current environment. Whether that means that you can take a couple of days away just to have a break from what it is that you're used to seeing, used to doing, used to feeling, and used to thinking. We are constantly and continually interacting with the environment that we have around us in order to re-establish the identity that we've already formed, because we are relating to our environments all the time. So one of the ways that you can actually go about being able to really listen to what your thinking mind is telling you, really engage with it in the role of the observer, is by removing yourself from your current environment. If you can take a couple of days away, great. If you can't, and it's not necessarily something that you can actually do, this is where meditation, whether you can or you can't take yourself away, is always going to be one of the best ways that you can engage with yourself and your thinking mind. We have to slow ourselves down. We have to slow down everything that we've been doing. And we have to separate ourselves in that way from constantly going and going and going. For those of you that have children, I have to pick up the kids, I have to clean the house, I have to wash the clothes, I have to cook dinner, I have to go to work, I have to sleep, I have to go to the gym. Constantly going over and over and over and over the same thing, re-establishing who you are and what you do in your environment. So you're going to have to, at this point in time, make a really conscious decision that you are going to take yourself to a park, or you're going to take yourself to a nearby field, or you're going to sit in your garden, or you are going to find a calm place in your home as it is currently, and just sit with yourself and slow yourself down. You can use all sorts of different type of breathing techniques when it comes to meditation. The point is that you actually allow yourself the time and space to sit with yourself, and to allow your brain waves to slow down, so that you can outstep yourself and step into the role of the observer to see what it is that you're thinking about and why you're thinking that. And also to ask yourself some really tough questions. Have your thoughts contributed to the life that you're living right now? Have your thoughts hindered you from getting further than you have already? Why has that happened? This is going to really help you to be able to dig deeper and get into that shadow part of yourself that we all have, so that you can shed a light on what it is that's been underneath all of these other variety of things that you've had to do, these other distractions of washing up and taking care of the kids, and then overlooking yourself without you even realizing it. We often make ourselves so busy that we overlook ourselves. So by you making the time, by either taking yourself out of your current environment if you can for a few days, just so that you can be with yourself and have the space to think and breathe and be in that time, or you find somewhere in your current environment where you're going to be able to really sit with yourself and get yourself into this meditative state where you're doing your breathing, you're calming yourself down, you're allowing your brain waves to slow, and then you're asking yourself the questions inside of you, so that you can get into your shadow self, shed a light on what is really down there, what's potentially underneath everything, underneath your thoughts, underneath your behaviors, underneath your actions, so that you can assist it to bring it up to the surface and integrate it with who you are. So one of the first steps to take when it comes to being able to learn some of your subconscious thought processes and your subconscious behaviors and why you do the things you do, in order for you to release that and establish something new for yourself, something in alignment with who you want to be, one of the first steps is going to be for you to slow yourself down enough and put yourself in a space where you're going to be able to really listen and outstep and look at yourself from the position of the observer, so that you can familiarize yourself with why these thoughts are there, with how they make you feel, how they feel in your body, with where they show up, where the tension comes up. We're going to really get into this, guys. This is what I'm now calling the Faith Frequency series, because I really want to share with you how you can then go about releasing some of those old feelings in order for you to clear some of the stuck energy, and then move into another space where you can give yourself room to imagine what it is that you want for your life, what it is that you want for yourself, who you want to be, what you want to feel like. And we have to do this on an internal level, because when we are searching outside of ourselves and it becomes an external fight, I'm going to change where I live, I'm going to change everything in my environment, I need to change my body, I need to change the color of my hair, I need to go out and see my friends, when we're constantly doing this, sometimes there is an emptiness that we can feel inside of ourselves, because we are doing work externally as opposed to internally. We have to learn how to balance both the external and the internal, and this work starts from within. Nothing to change but self. Like, share and subscribe for those of you who felt like you got something out of this. Our next video is going to be when we start talking about feeling and the emotional body, and what happens when we internalize certain traumas or certain limiting beliefs, how that can play on us on an internal level, what happens to us when it comes to the chemical releases in our brains, in our bodies, and what it makes us do or not do. So that's going to be in the next video. I hope that I will see you guys then. My name is Naayantara. I am a holistic mindset coach, and I wish you all very, very well Have a fantastical, blessed day, and I'll see you guys real soon.